Safety is job one, folks. And one concept that's crucial to staying safe on the job is understanding the line of fire. Simply put, the line of fire is the path an uncontrolled hazard might travel that could potentially cause harm. Imagine a ricocheting bullet, a falling object, or even a swinging load. These all create a line of fire that you don't want to be in. But you'd be surprised how often folks find themselves in harm's way because they weren't aware of the potential line of fire. Remember, safety isn't just about protecting yourself, it's about protecting your co-workers too. By understanding the line of fire, you're looking out for the whole team. So, what exactly are we talking about when we say line of fire hazards? They can come in many forms, but let's break them down into a few key categories: striking, crushing, and stored energy hazards. First up, striking hazards. These are the ones that hit you with force, like projectiles, flying debris, or even a swinging pipe. Think about a nail gun misfiring or a grinder kicking back. Those are prime examples of striking hazards creating a dangerous line of fire. Next, we've got crushing hazards. These are the ones that can pin you between objects or crush you under a heavy load. Imagine a forklift tipping over or a load shifting unexpectedly. Those scenarios can quickly turn deadly if you're in the line of fire. Finally, let's talk about stored energy hazards. These all contain stored energy that can be released unexpectedly, creating a line of fire that can be just as dangerous as any other. Now that we've covered the different types of line of fire hazards, let's talk about some common situations where you might encounter them. First and foremost, moving equipment is a big one. Whether it's a forklift zipping through the warehouse or a crane swinging overhead, always be aware of their movements and potential lines of fire. Remember, these machines don't have eyes, and it's up to you to stay clear. Next, let's talk about manual lifting. Improper lifting techniques can put a lot of strain on your back, potentially leading to serious injury. Always lift with your legs, not your back, and never hesitate to ask for help if something is too heavy. Unsecured loads are another common culprit. A sudden shift or drop can create a dangerous line of fire that you don't want to be anywhere near. Finally, let's not forget about working at heights. Always be aware of the potential for falling objects and the line of fire they create. All right, so we've talked about the dangers of the line of fire and some common situations where you might encounter them. These situations can arise in various industrial settings, from construction sites to factories, where heavy machinery and moving equipment are commonplace. Now, let's get proactive and discuss how to mitigate those risks using IOGP's risk control strategies. It's crucial to understand these strategies to ensure a safer working environment for everyone involved. IOGP stands for the International Association of Oil and Gas Producers, an organization dedicated to promoting safety and best practices in the oil and gas industry. And they've got a pretty solid handle on safety. Their guidelines are widely respected and implemented across the industry. They've developed a hierarchy of controls that helps us prioritize the most effective ways to manage risks. This hierarchy is a step-by-step approach to ensure that the most effective measures are taken first. First on the list is elimination. This means completely removing the hazard from the workplace. Simply put, if we can eliminate the hazard altogether, that's the best-case scenario. This could involve changing the way a task is performed or removing a dangerous piece of equipment. For example, if a particular task always requires workers to be in the line of fire of a moving vehicle, maybe we can find a way to redesign the process to eliminate that risk entirely. This might involve rerouting traffic or changing the layout of the workspace. Next up are engineering controls. These are physical changes we can make to the workplace to reduce or eliminate hazards. These controls can include installing safety guardrails to prevent falls, which are particularly important in construction sites where the risk of falling from heights is significant. Machine guards to protect from moving parts, ensuring that workers are not exposed to dangerous machinery, or even warning systems to alert workers to potential dangers. These systems can include alarms, lights, and other signals that provide immediate warnings. If we can't eliminate the hazard or fully control it with engineering solutions, then we move on to administrative controls. These involve changing the way people work. These are procedures and practices we put in place to minimize risk. This can include training, safety protocols, and regular safety meetings. And finally, if all else fails, we've got personal protective equipment, or PPE. This is the last line of defense and includes items like helmets, gloves, and safety glasses to protect workers from hazards. Section 5. Hierarchy of controls for line-of-fire hazards. This section is crucial for understanding how to effectively manage and mitigate risks associated with line-of-fire hazards in the workplace. Now let's take a closer look at how these IOGP risk control strategies apply specifically to line-of-fire hazards. These strategies are designed to systematically reduce the risk of injury or accidents by addressing hazards at their source. Remember, the hierarchy is all about prioritizing the most effective controls first. This means starting with the most reliable methods to eliminate or reduce hazards before considering less effective measures. At the top, we've got elimination. This is the most effective way to deal with hazards because it completely removes the risk. Can we completely remove the line-of-fire hazard? For instance, if a piece of equipment poses a risk, can it be redesigned or replaced to eliminate the hazard entirely? For example, if a task requires workers to manually lift heavy objects, can we use a mechanical lift instead to eliminate the risk of back injuries? This not only reduces the risk, but also improves efficiency. If elimination isn't feasible, we move on to engineering controls. These controls involve redesigning the workspace or equipment to reduce exposure to hazards. Can we physically separate workers from the line of fire? This could involve installing barriers, shields, or other physical means to keep workers safe. Think barriers, shielding, or even interlocks that prevent machinery from operating when someone is in a dangerous zone. These measures are highly effective in preventing accidents. Next up are administrative controls. These are policies and procedures designed to reduce risk through proper management and organization. Can we implement procedures to minimize the risk? This includes creating clear guidelines and protocols for safe work practices. This could include things like designated work areas, traffic flow plans to separate pedestrians from vehicles, or even just clear communication protocols to alert workers of potential line-of-fire hazards. Effective communication is key to ensuring everyone is aware of the risks and knows how to avoid them. And lastly, we have PPE. Personal protective equipment is the last line of defense and should be used when other controls are not sufficient to eliminate the risk. Section 6, Hazard Identification and Assessment. Okay, so we've got our risk control strategies in place, but how do we actually identify those line-of-fire hazards in the first place? Well, it all starts with being proactive and conducting regular hazard assessments. First and foremost, we need to train our eyes to spot potential dangers. This means taking the time to really look at our work areas and think about the tasks being performed. Are there any moving parts, suspended loads, or potential for objects to fall or be ejected? Could any of these create a line of fire that could put workers at risk? One helpful tool is a job hazard analysis, or JHA. This involves breaking down a task into its individual steps and identifying potential hazards at each stage. By analyzing the job step by step, we can pinpoint exactly where line-of-fire hazards might occur and develop appropriate controls. Another crucial aspect is involving workers in the process. Section 7. Key safety practices to avoid line-of-fire hazards. All right, we've talked about identifying and assessing line-of-fire hazards, but what are some practical things we can do on a daily basis to stay safe? Let's dive into some essential safety practices that can make a significant difference. Well, it all boils down to being aware, being prepared, and using common sense. These three principles are the foundation of staying safe in any work environment. First and foremost, stay alert. Always be aware of your surroundings and the tasks you're performing. Distractions are a killer, especially when it comes to line-of-fire hazards. A momentary lapse in concentration can lead to serious accidents. Put those phones away. Resist the urge to chat with your buddy while working, and keep your eyes focused on the task at hand. Your undivided attention can prevent many accidents. Next, think about your positioning. How you position yourself can greatly impact your safety. Whenever possible, position yourself so that you're not directly in the line of fire of a potential hazard. This means being mindful of where you stand and how you move. If you're working with power tools, make sure you're not pointing them at yourself or anyone else. Proper handling and positioning are crucial. If you're working near moving equipment, maintain a safe distance and be aware of its path of travel. Communication is key, folks. Always let others know where you are and what you're doing. If you see a potential line of fire hazard, don't be afraid to speak up and warn others. Your vigilance can save lives and prevent injuries. Remember, safety is a collective responsibility. Section 8. IOGP Training and Awareness Programs. Now let's talk about how we can spread the word about line of fire safety and make it a part of our everyday work culture. That's where training and awareness programs come in. The IOGP has developed a range of resources to help companies implement effective line of fire training. These programs typically involve a combination of classroom instruction, hands-on exercises, and visual aids to drive the message home. One effective approach is to use real-life case studies and incident reports to illustrate the potential consequences of line of fire hazards. By sharing stories of what can go wrong, we can make the risks more tangible and relatable for workers. Section 9. Conclusion. Promoting a culture of proactive safety. At the end of the day, folks, safety isn't just about rules and regulations. It's about creating a culture where everyone feels empowered to look out for themselves and each other. Understanding the line of fire is a crucial part of that culture. By implementing the IOGP's risk control strategies, conducting thorough hazard assessments, and providing ongoing training and awareness programs, we can create a work environment where everyone goes home safe every day. Let's work together to make line of fire safety a top priority and build a culture where accidents are the exception, not the rule.